So let me start by, first of all, talking about this slide, okay? And as I had just mentioned, I took this directly from the presentation I had made on the Calypso from the 60s to the 80s. And so Radford is going to, I'll bring up the slides and Radford will talk to the slides as we go. Okay, so we will start off in Jamaica. All right, and as we go through the slide, you simply say next and I will switch. Okay, so here we go. All right, so this is the SS Palm, one of the two vessels that traversed the route from Jamaica to Trinidad, and this is the one that you had taken. Yes. So Radford, let me turn it on off to you to discuss what it is we're seeing here. Okay, so we start off in Jamaica. Okay, looking at this. So Radford, off to you.
Yes. This is the Blue Mountains, and this is a shot taken from my block on Chancellor Hall in New Wing in 65. I was trying to get a rainbow. You can certainly see the rainbow, a little bit of the rainbow. But this is facing the Blue Mountains.
Okay.
So this is in Sincona, Jamaica. Yes, move on. Same shot again, different angle. Where you can see some of the agricultural area on the mountain itself. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. And are we up at Moses Gap? We're going up to Moses Gap soon, yes.
Okay, so this is...
Roger. Yes, This is the highest point in Jamaica. It's known as Moses Gap. We left the campus around 7 o'clock at night. Go up mountains. It's easy. There are no insects and stuff to bother you. So you get to Moses Gap, and this picture was taken in the morning after sleeping and waking up, etc., etc. We went up to see the sun rising. This was the first thing you see as the sun comes through. So okay, up at it's 5,500 feet up. But that's as far as you can get.
So this is the highest point in Jamaica.
In Jamaica.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay. While on campus, we took several trips across Jamaica. This is the Doctor's Cove up on the north coast. And it's one of the beach areas that tourists frequent. And then, Roger, I'm seeing two sets of pictures. Which one? So we're Doctor's Cove, right?
Yeah.
You ready to move on to the next slide?
Hey, DP.
Slide.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to show it so we just see the one slide?
Okay, certainly.
Right now, we're seeing
the two slides, right?
And I am thinking that you might have multiple screens going and you're showing us a screen that we...
Okay. Yeah, so you guys are now seeing the one screen?
That's the one slide.
This
is Clydesdale, up in Clydesdale, the bathing pool, which is
nice.
very close to Down River.
Yes. That's it.
Which is very close to Down River's Falls.
Okay.
Oh, before you move on, can you go back to the slide with the highest peak?
Moses Gap.
Yeah, so can you tell us how you got there?
Next
Can you give us a little background on how were you hiking? I mean, how did you get there?
Oh, there's a trail you can follow. And so we left the campus and just went up to one of the villages and then took the trail up to the top.
And how long did you say it took?
Well, it took us about, I would say, about 5 hours, maybe. But we got there late at night.
Okay.
And we camped out
okay.
Just to make sure we see the sun and the moon.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide, Raj.
All right.
Yeah, as I said, Dr. Scove, Clydesdale, the Winter Clydesdale, Jamaica now, the bathing pool. This is Don Rivers Falls, where part of Dr. No was filmed. You see, remember when he came off the beach and General Bridger was waiting for him? I hope you've seen Dr. No, right? James Bond, first movie.
Yes, we know of Dr. No, but I guess we were very small at that time.
True, I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, so this is
who was he born in that? James Sean Connery?
Sean Connery and General Bridger, yes. Those are the two stars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an iconic picture with him seeing her for the first time, coming out of the water. Yes, this is the lower branch of the falls.
Yeah.
Then we move up to the upper part, the upper branch. And these are all university students. We had a trip out. Hope Zoo, I think it was near Crosstown, I think it is. And this was a favorite spot for my particular group. You know, whenever we need a break from campus, we'll go to Hope Zoo and hang out. There's also gardens attached to it. And take pictures, of course. I don't know what state is it in today, because I haven't been back to Jamaica since 1967. Continue on. Part of Hope Gardens.
All right.
Okay,
moving on.
Now,
you guys might be interested in this one.
This is what pollution has done to a river in Jamaica. So much so that it is now called Red River. Bauxite. This is what happens when you mine bauxite. And you cannot really use the river anymore. And some of you may have known what has happened to bauxite in Jamaica. At one stage, Jamaica was the leading producer of aluminum in the world. And then, of course, it was discovered elsewhere, etc. But what happened is that the bauxite industry was, how could I call it? Went and, I can't find the right word at the moment, but it more or less collapsed because of the United States. Norman Manley was in power, and he had, according to the US government, communist leanings. So, and he was close with Castro. So Jamaica was put on the list, and the bauxite industry collapsed. Okay? So this is what happens when the US exercises its power. Okay? I don't know what has happened since.
And of course, the dumping of the effluents in the river is what caused the river to change color effectively.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is another view of the same river.
Can I comment?
Certainly, please.
I was on that trip down also on the federal farm, but my final year, one of my final year projects for my econ was the use of the reclamation of bauxite lands for agriculture in that same region in Jamaica. I did a paper on that. It was actually in the end rejected by Arkan because I was a young chap, I was too naive, and I wrote the truth.
Okay.
But they really wasted a whole lot of land, and you know, they never really took good enough efforts to recover the area. And most of the bad areas were hidden from the public view.
So
I saw it all, and I foolishly wrote it. But they really, what's that?
I'm not familiar with bauxite mining. Is it like an open?
Yeah, it's an open pit system, right? They remove the vegetation. They take the red iron oxide thing from the ground, and then they're supposed to restore the land by putting back some sort of soil cover, and putting in plants that are now adapted. You know, they're supposed to have farms on the side trying to change the vegetation to adapt to the more acidic soil. And they're supposed to put some sort of alkaline thing to treat the soil so it can get back into agriculture. So, you know, there were the testing areas where they were doing all these plants, but it was nowhere near what was necessary to reclaim land. So I am sure there still are many, many thousands of acres in that area which nothing could grow but scrub.
Okay.
So I really
marijuana.
I don't know, Linus, are you familiar with what has happened in the many years since this thing?
Yeah, well, they still had Rusal, the Russian company, maintain the bauxite strip mining operation in the north of Brazil, just to the east of Trelawney, north of Manchester County, actually. And they ship it down to the South Alligator Pond, and they have a facility there. The Chinese had tried to actually buy out Rusal under the guise of putting in an alumina plant. They never did, so the deal fell through. The bauxite is less intrusive on the Jamaican economy at this time because the actual acreage that has been targeted is a lot less. So fortunately, Michael, a lot of vegetation has regrown. The bad water, unfortunately, seep through the soil and enter the aquifers. And that has been a major problem in Jamaica. They never drilled new wells to different depths. So the contamination is still there, as invisible as it is now. When Roger spoke about seeing the rivers discolored, it was because it was fresh still and there wasn't the seepage through the soil. The soil acted as a filter, but the contaminated stuff is still underneath. So bauxite still exists. So the three countries, when we were in primary school, was Jamaica, and the two countries was Jamaica and Guyana, really, in the Linden area. And then Suriname got heavily involved in bauxite through Suralco, which is the Suriname arm of Alcoa. Alcoa was a major player. They had sold the Guyanese operation to a company for small money, 12 or 20 million US, but it has become very expensive worldwide competition because the Chinese were able to put alumina on the world market at like $200 a ton. So that is one good that the Chinese did to help kill the bauxite industry in the Caribbean islands. So we have some land preservation taking place and less destruction taking place. So it's becoming less and less important in the Caribbean. So there's a chance for recovery now from a nature point of view.
Okay. I believe Govin had his hand up. Govin?
Yeah, while Linus said might be losing important, I think what they're doing is eyeing the cockpit country, because that is the new deposit, that nice high quality bauxite just sitting there. And you know, Radford might present the importance of the cockpit country as we go along, but they are in the cockpit country to start mining.
Okay.
Over.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have, at least I don't know that we have any photos of the
I don't
cockpit
think
country.
we don't have any photos of the cockpit country.
Okay. Anyways,
Now, I should make one point here that these pictures are all from slides. Okay. We haven't used any machine to convert them, etc. Roger did a fantastic job in getting the pictures so we can see them. All I did was clean them up, and Roger used his iPhone to get the picture. Okay, so you should know that up front. Remember, this is 5 years ago.
They're from these things. Okay, so this is how they were in their original state, in a box somewhere in Radford's library. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, one more comment. With regards to the bauxite. Or any earlier remembered, and we had a bauxite collection port or something, Tembladora?
Tembladora.
What was
Tembladora, yeah. That's
remember
right.
on the 15 Lyndhurst? How was that?
Give
Yeah.
me a minute, I will call. I'll call you
Oh,
back.
somebody.
Okay, cool.
But I remember the Tembladora, I think the bauxite used to come and that used to be a intermediate port before you move it up to
From
North
Guyana.
Carolina or
That's
something.
what they
Yeah,
call
they
a
used to move it from
transshipment
Guyana.
port, right?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that, please,
What?
Michael? Let me hear.
It was what they
That's
call
right, quick, Karanaj.
a transshipment port. They brought smaller ships from Guyana and Suriname to Tembladora,
Yeah.
transporting into larger vessels, ocean-going vessels, to go up north. So we had a transshipment port essentially.
Okay. So I will
And
ask Michael.
Just to respond to Orson's question here, what exactly is bauxite? It's basically aluminum oxide that's going to be mined and made into our regular aluminum foil and material for plane, etc. All that aluminum product. So it's a raw material that exists in aluminum, silica, and oxygen are the three major material for that constitute the earth. So in a short story, it's aluminum oxide. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you for that explanation, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, no
but
problem.
moving on, and perhaps Michael or Dave Nanan could explain to Radford. I don't know if you have ever been to this particular place. Okay. You know, if it looks familiar, Radford himself is at a loss. The
I
place
have
where
a
he
lot
took
to
this.
remember where I took the picture. I know it was taken in Jamaica.
Okay. So it may have changed quite significantly since 1965.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. So this here is a picture of King Street. It's a little blurry, but I don't know the significance of King Street in terms of Jamaica. If it's like the Frederick Street in Trinidad.
Similar, yes.
Okay.
One of the important streets.
That's downtown Kingston.
Yes.
Radford?
Yes.
Downtown Kingston.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Downtown Kingston. Oh, yes. Yes.
You catch the, I think somewhere down there, Dave might remember where he's going to catch Robert to go Ocho Rios. It was down in that area?
Down in that area, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is how it looked at nighttime. Okay. Back in the 60s. All right. Yeah, so it looked like it was a pretty active place back then. Okay.
It still is. There's a market there. It's very busy and congested. And it doesn't look as nice as it does in that picture anymore.
Really? This looks like
I'm
it's
not very far from that place is Kingston Public Hospital.
Okay.
Okay.
Where I used to take trauma call.
Okay.
And right next to that is where Bob Marley grew up, you know, that ghetto area down there.
Yeah.
And I actually got lost in that area once. It's just around the corner. That's how I remember it.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm not too sure what is this big structure at the back there. Maybe it's the hospital, I don't know. Or this series of lights up somewhere in the middle of the photograph. Anyways.
It might be looking down to the waterfront and there was some high-rise
some
buildings
boats. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
That's very close to the waterfront in Kingston.
Okay, excellent. So this is looking down to the waterfront as well?
I don't think so. That's the mountains in the background.
Because these are mountains in the background.
Yeah, I can see the mountains in the background. That's looking towards the north.
So two different perspectives on the same street, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. And here we have a photograph of Port Royal. The beach, a beach down there.
Yeah. This is a local beach.
Okay. Okay. So this here again another photograph of somewhere in Port Royal. Yeah, and Radford, you can take it from here. We will talk about Flatbridge next.
Yes. Flatbridge is an important tourist spot in Jamaica. It was built by slaves in the 1700s. I think they say 1724. It has no rails. And then, and even today, there are no rails. It was the link between North Jamaica and South Jamaica. The highway runs through there. Until I think, I don't know when, but recently there's a new highway, so this is hardly traversed. But it's a tourist spot. And when there are hurricanes, for example, the water rises to about, they say 10 to 20 feet above the bridge. There's a lot of what you call superstition associated with the bridge. There used to be many accidents on the bridge, in the area of the bridge, and they said that it was the spirit of the slaves. That when the slaves died, this is what is said. That when the slaves died, buried in the area of the bridge. Okay, there's a whole story about duppies and other things involved with the bridge. Okay? But it's an important tourist attraction in Jamaica. Yes.
Can I interject something, Radford?
Yes. Yes,
So,
Dave, go ahead.
Yes.
Close to Flatbridge is the town of Linstead. You know, you heard about Linstead Market and all that. Okay,
Yeah.
but immediately within about 300-400 yards of Flatbridge lives the most famous Obia woman in Jamaica. For real. And that's why today it is famous, not because it's Flatbridge or it was built by slaves, it's because people come from all over Jamaica to go and visit this lady when they want to. Okay? And quite often when you
Hey,
travel
Jamaica,
around,
mother corn hawks, boy. Yeah.
you see like ornaments and relics left on the street when they perform ceremonies.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I'm kind of
Our
curious.
own Papa
Roger,
Nisa.
near
Radford,
Flatbridge is a
could you come a little closer to the computer? Good, so that we could hear you a little clearly. Good. All there is good.
Okay.
All there is good.
all that's good.
Yeah.
Near Flatbridge is another attraction, but I don't have a picture of it. It's a rock called Pum Pum Rock. You may have heard about Pum Pum. Basically, it's two rocks close together with another rock in between that looks like a clitoris.
Okay.
When you're going north to Ocho Rios, the river on your left-hand side, you look across the river, and there the rock is.
Correct, PK. It's not far from it, just around the corner.
PK took note of where exactly the rock is.
It's amazing how Dave and PK know that rock so good, boy.
You study that in anatomy.
I have driven over Flatbridge 100 times. So I know
Okay.
that area pretty well. And like
Go to the
Radford
rock.
said, they constructed a highway now to the north coast. So you don't have to go the long way through Linstead and through Flatbridge. And those roads, quite frankly, are very treacherous. But the highway is a modern highway. It's very quick. And you can get into Montego Bay within about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. Yeah.
Okay. Peter Khan, you had a question?
Yeah, I was wondering about the reaction when I think it was Dave said that the most famous Obia woman in Jamaica lived a few hundred yards away and everybody laughed. So I was just wondering what elicited that laughter. What was it that was funny?
I could tell you why I
It's
laugh.
a serious question. I'm not making fun of anybody or anything. I just want to know why was that funny?
Well, it was funny for me because I was going to ask Dave if it really works, but I don't know about the rest of the other people. If what she predicted really worked, you know. So,
Is Dennis here? If Dennis is on, he should know about Isaac. Isaac used to live in Oropuch and he was Obia man in Trinidad.
You're talking about Sheppy?
Hey, Khan, I laugh because everybody else laughed.
Actually, I think it's a cultural thing, to put it bluntly. We grew up with the idea that the Oberman was outside, basically outside of the society and did evil things. That's how we grew up. We know different today. Okay, that's even when you take it on the Orisha religion, etc., and the role of the Oberman in African society. But it's
we still laugh though.
Yes, I know.
That it tells you how deeply entrenched that education, that miseducation that we were exposed to, how deeply entrenched it is in our psyches, you know?
Yes, I agree with you on that point. And I think there are many other things. I'm going to give you an example. And I did courses in racism. I belonged in groups that dealt with racism. I remember that my son had an asthma attack and I had to take him to the doctor. He was under treatment, so on, every week or so on, so on. And then my doctor changed and I went into the office with him, with my son. And at that stage, the Chinese were moving into my area. And every person on in the office other were Chinese, because the doctor was a Chinese doctor. And you know what came to mind? A refrain that I learned as a kid growing up in Trinidad. And I said to myself, oh shit. See, these are the things that happen to us that are ingrained in us. And I had to reflect in terms of dealing with racism within myself. And I'm gonna say the same, Chinese never die, flat nose and chinky eye. That was the first thing that came to mind. You see? So, but you have to do the introspection and look at yourself. And I think we got to do the same thing with the Oberman. You know. Any comments?
The thing about for me is that
have your hand up?
Sorry, go ahead. My hand is still up, but the thing about it for me is that, especially with regard to Isaac, because I used to drive by Isaac's house and he had a huge house and that was all he used to do is that priest thing, right? And he had a ton of people coming to him over a long period of time, years and years and years. So you would think that if he was a fraud, it would have been exposed way before, you know. We had ministers, sometimes you drive by there in the night and you would see Mercedes parked up in front. So there must have been some validity to it, you know.
Well, Isaac, who is speaking of, was also known as Sheppy.
I never heard him referred to as Sheppy, but it's possible. I knew him as around. I knew him as Isaac, as far as I know.
That I remember the funeral of him.
Right.
In 1987, because my grandmother was the same day, and the people who were there, and the thousands of people who were on the Mosquito Creek, it was a sight to see.
Yeah, and actually, people came over from Nigeria by boat because apparently they knew in advance that he was going to die.
Okay.
So, high priest from Nigeria, I think it was, actually came over and were there attending his funeral.
Okay. This is an interesting discussion, but let's continue and we'll see how it goes. All right. So, Radford, the next stop is in Spanish Town. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So this year, go ahead, Radford, if you want to.
Yeah, this year is Admiral George Rodney Memorial. He had an important part to play in Spanish Town in terms of the French and the English conflict. And so they erected a monument to him. Yeah. And there's something going on now in the Caribbean with respect to Black Lives Matter and the role of these guys like Rodney and
Horatio
Horace
Nelson.
Horatio Nelson, etc. And there's a movement afoot to remove all these statues.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is still standing today.
Yeah, this is still standing today. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just one other thing, really, is that this guy was one of the guys who were vehemently against the abolition of
Yeah.
slavery in the Caribbean. He was, you know, a very much an opponent of abolition of slavery. Okay. Yes.
Next time we see in the FLS statue, I want to get 2 or 3 of them pigeon from Maruga. One can name that on top of Columbus and dress he up. Yeah.
Okay. But it's curious that how he's dressed in sort of Roman kind of garb, you know, which I
Yes.
find to be quite interesting. Okay, moving on. We're moving out of Jamaica.
Yes.
We're on the boat and we're heading to St. Kitts.
Yeah, we spent 3 days underwater without seeing anything. This is the first thing you spot, okay, as you move down the Caribbean. This is the first scene you meet. This is St. Kitts.
Okay.
We spent a day in St. Kitts, and then this is in, yes.
Okay. So from here, you actually landed in St. Kitts.
Yes. Bastia, this is the cathedral. Is it cathedral? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Notice the fire station next door to it.
Okay. Maybe I'm going too far.
Yes.
Where is it? In front of it? This thing here?
Where? Beside it, I think. No?
The one in front of it?
Can't tell it. Yes, that's a fire station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
At the entrance to the main street, just like how you have the statue in Trinidad, you have this clock. Yeah. So this was at 25 to 1. Bastia, the view from the boat.
And all of these things were taken straight off the slide.
Yes.
Which is interesting. Okay. So
Another
this
view. Notice the agricultural land between the 2 mountains. And then, yes. Okay. One of the historic sites in St. Kitts, Brimstone Hill. Notice this overlook, the hill overlooking the ocean. So you could see practically everything in the sea. And what I like about it is the design of the fort. Okay. Notice, right, it's circular, and practically I would say every 10 or 15 feet there was a cannon. Remember, think about the Spanish coming into the Caribbean wartime. This is probably the first thing they will see. All right. So the British reinforced this particular area. This is lower down with the quarters, etc.
No, this is a better look at inside of the fort.
Inside
with
the fort.
Cannons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is a part of the fort. You know, part of it is broken down. These are some of the guys that were with me. This one is did mathematics with me. Another one mathematics, and the third one I think he did English. Okay. There were 5 of us. One of whom, of course, I don't know if you know him, Aubrey Garcia. His father was, I think, principal at one of the schools, either Queen's Mary, QRC or St. Mary's. But he worked for the UN, he worked for the World Bank, etc. And he was the legal director for Chin, I can't remember his first name, the Jamaican multimillionaire who established banks and everything in the Caribbean.
Isn't that the same guy who donated handsomely to Rarson's, continuing education program?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Michael Leachin.
Michael Leachin, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Garcia was the principal of Fatima.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Okay, Garcia also went to presentation for 1 year.
Okay. Didn't do him any good. He became a government minister.
Okay.
Oh, actually,
All right.
Garcia, sorry, I gotta correct that. Garcia was never a government minister.
There was another
Wasn't this
Garcia,
education?
however, who was the Minister of Education, I believe.
Yeah, that's the other Garcia, not the
Okay.
one I'm talking about. Because the
All
one
right.
I'm talking about works for governments in the Caribbean. He works for Grenada, Barbados, Jamaica, etc. He's a private consultant now.
The father-in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of this presentation, I must say we have some modern day views of these places.
Yes.
And we recognize how much these places have changed. Okay. Since 1965 when these things were taken out. All right.
Continue.
Next up, we have we're leaving St. Kitts now. If anybody wants to stay here, we're heading over to Montserrat.
Montserrat. We didn't come off the boat from Montserrat. We just stayed and viewed the night scene. So this is Montserrat.
So this is evening time, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. From Montserrat, Montserrat is very close to Antigua, actually.
Yes. So this.
You know, you can see Montserrat from Antigua very clearly.
Yes.
You know, in the background.
Yeah.
So this is
one of the
this is in St. John's.
Yeah.
The main street in St. John's. You know, just on the side, because I lived in Antigua for 2 years, I always find their soca to be very, very fast. Very, very fast, you know, burning flame and so on. So I asked a question of someone, why is it that your music is always so fast? He said, well, look at the city, you know, right? From the time you jump from here to there, you're finished. So we have to speed up the music. So you get a good sweat, you know. Anyways, so that was just on that side. So that was St. John's, Antigua. Okay. Radford?
Dominica.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They did not have a deep water harbor, so we had to take a boat in. And we did that for a few islands. You know, stayed
So
out and then
it's one of these boats.
Yes,
I
one
guess.
of those. I transferred back and forth to the federal park. Roosevelt, I see.
All right.
It's interesting when you view all these slides that, and I think it's typical to Trinidad too, that all the settlements are along the coastline. Generally along the coastline.
Mm. Okay, so moving along from Dominica.
Castries.
Can I ask a quick question? Did you mention Guadeloupe?
No, we didn't do the French islands.
The boat didn't stop off there.
Yeah.
Okay. But you were able to see it from the boat.
I think we were.
Okay. Because I'm following on the map. So you
Yeah.
came due east from Jamaica, and now you're heading south.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we have a few pictures from Castries and Lucia. Notice the big boats in the dock there.
But even at this time, St. Lucia seems to be a fairly developed place, I would say.
Yes.
Their mainstay was agriculture, not so?
Yes. Especially bananas.
Okay.
Exporting bananas to Europe.
Okay, and this is how downtown looks.
Downtown, yes.
Notice the cars, guys, you know, very dated. Okay. Downtown Castries. You happen to get this picture here?
An iconic picture. Notice that only the women loaded the bananas onto the boats.
Okay. And of course, this is the famous piton.
The pitons. Gros piton and petit piton. Yeah.
All right.
A scene from the boat.
Okay.
Yes. A banana plantation then, you see. This is, you're looking at 66 years ago.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. And
Then
now
after
we're going
St.
to-
Vincent coming into Kingston, okay. Not much shoreline, but again, notice how the development is not high up in the mountains that we tried to do here in Trinidad. Right.
Remember that was then, right?
Now it's that.
Might be different
True,
now.
true. It will be different, way different.
Okay. All right, so some of St. Vincent.
Yes.
I like the picture that is coming up here, which is the Market Day.
Yes.
In,
Market Day in Kingston.
right?
Notice
Notice the, sorry, go ahead.
Notice the cars.
But more to the point, notice the Shell gas station.
Yeah.
You know, right? And I guess this is where the market thing was happening.
Yeah.
Over there. Okay.
Anyone recognizes the maker of the cars? Do we have any car buffs there?
Yeah, see this one at the bottom is a Vauxhall Velox, I think.
Uh-huh.
Which one is that?
This one right at the bottom.
This one here?
Yeah.
Or the white one at the corner here?
No, this
That's
one.
like Austin, Cambridge.
This one is a
Zephyr?
This is a Zephyr. This
Mm-hmm.
is Austin.
Austin.
I think this one is a Vauxhall. This one here where the cursor is at now.
Okay. Yeah. This
Yeah,
also
that
the
is a bit,
iconic car here.
that's
This
a bit-
blue car with the white hood here.
Is that an Angler?
Probably.
No,
Could be.
no, an Anglia is a small car.
Small car, right? Yeah. The front.
And next to that is a next Zephyr.
Mhm.
Look at this. Look like a Vauxhall Victor. The second from the left.
The one in front, the guy with the bicycle and the white shirt, that's look like a hillman.
Yeah.
That one, yeah. And then it looked like you have a station wagon on the other side. That will have
That's a
box.
Volkswagen station wagon. A Vauxhall.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That white one with the door open, that's an unusual car. That was a Austin Westminster. Those were unusual.
Ooh.
Which
big
one was
time.
that? This one here with the door that is open?
Yes, Austin Westminster, unusual
Okay.
car.
Okay.
Was probably a little more expensive than the other. The one next to it looks like the back of a Hillman Mink. The first Hillman Mink.
Yeah.
We are something like that.
Okay.
And this
Interesting.
fella in the foreground using a pair of crutches.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That car by him looks like one of the earliest Ford Cortina.
Cortina.
A Cortina.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the console next to it.
Yes.
Okay. You guys have very good eyes, man. You know your
Hey,
cars.
DP, go up to
Yeah.
the label on that. The label near the gas. What is that saying? The Shell gas station. What is in the back? Something Butlers. The title.
Hadley
Brothers, Sons and Company Limited.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fertilizers? Like Kipalanis or something? I don't know.
Yeah, well, they own several buildings because there's
Right,
this,
and some
there's this
are
one here, and so on. You know,
That was the pre-Massey and them boys.
probably.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
probably big importers of dry goods from England and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. If you watch good, you can see the doubles man in the back there too.
All right, good. So that was Market Day in Kingston. Moving on.
Market Day is always an exciting
Okay.
time, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flat.
Anybody notice something about Barbados that is different?
It's flat.
It's flat like a beak.
Flat.
You know,
Yeah, it's flat.
No hills, nothing.
Yeah, the highest point in Barbados, I think, is 604 feet high.
Yeah.
That's the top. And
Yes,
when
that
you
is right.
drive up, it still looks high.
Thanks for saying that thing. And there's a road there. I went and I parked at that high spot and looked around.
Yep.
Okay, Dave, you had a
Yeah,
comment?
Radford, what day into the trip this is? Like how many days now since you left Jamaica?
Okay, 3 days underwater. It takes 10 days. 10 days underwater altogether. This is close to day 7 or 8 or something like that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Yeah. So check this out, and you all may have been here many times, I'm pretty sure. Okay, over here.
Oh yeah, Carinage. The carinage, what did they say? Carine age?
Carinage, the carinage.
Carinage. Did I correct you? You know, you just did wrong.
That's how they call it, Barbados and Grenada, the carinage.
The carinage. Yeah.
Let me
That's where the
ask a
carine
question.
goes.
Does it
That's
still
where the
look like
carine
this?
is.
Does it still look like this?
No man, it have a lot of
changes.
Yes.
It's busier.
Have a lot of eating places and everything down there now.
Yeah, they were doing the construction then. This is in 1965.
Whoa.
Okay. All right. This year is a plaque for Horatio Nelson.
Yes.
Apparently, a lot of people in Barbados still revere this guy. I don't know why, but you know.
Guess what? As I said earlier on, there was a movement to get rid of all these statues. And Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, decided that we should remove Mr. Nelson. So in November 2020, which is just a few months away, they took the statue away.
Okay.
So took it down. Okay. That's for current information.
Is it?
But Nelson was involved with the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805 and all that stuff.
He had a significant presence in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Because you know, he had Nelson's dockyard in Antigua, okay, and it was a huge place where they, you know, repaired boats. You know, they let the boats stay there during the hurricane season and other things, and it was like a strategic point, I guess, where the British Armada would, you know, go out and attack other people, right? So that's a little bit about Nelson.
Yeah.
Okay, here we have Grenada.
Oh, there are some sites you should recognize here. There's a building that's very, very familiar.
Or should be.
White building there.
Presentation College or what?
Presentation Brothers College. That's what it's called.
Okay.
It was built, later on I'll show you another picture that sort of captures the Catholic tradition of building schools. Because besides Presentation College, it's St. Joseph Convent, the cathedral next to it, and the elementary school similar to St. Gabriel's. Built in the same manner as in Trinidad. Okay?
Yeah. So they pretty much did the same thing. Dave?
In the top, left of this picture.
Top left, that's over here.
The red roof house.
Okay.
That's my aunt's house.
This house here? This house here?
Stayed in that house several times.
Hey, family.
This house over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
interesting.
Close to whatever that structure is, right around from Presentation College. Where that red structure is. There's a house right there, and that's where my aunt's house was.
Oh,
okay.
It was overlooking the bay. It was the highest point on the hill.
So like Sparrow, you came over to Trinidad when you were a child?
Trinidadian by boat. Hey, Peter, why you don't ask them why they're laughing?
Serious business.
He says he's a Trinidad by boat by talking plane.
Good one.
Yeah, okay.
He thought it was a thought.
Hey.
Moving on.
Dave, is that where your grandmother lived? Your mother's mother?
Hold on, Lisa. I'll talk to you in a sec. Yes, that's my grandmother is actually from Guelph.
From Guelph, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. But her family and my grandfather's family, most of them live in St. George's. That house, my aunt was the nursing, the head nurse of the island, the chief nursing officer. That was her title for many, many years. She passed away about a decade ago. And I've been to a couple of weddings there and, stuff like that.
Yeah, I hope Peter took proper note of the pronunciation guave and not guave, you know. As some of us want to
Oh,
say.
Yeah, call me back.
All right, moving on. Here's another view of St. George's, Radford.
Come on.
Yes, St. George's, yes.
I see
Okay,
the coronage. Yeah.
yeah. As you see, the slide has a little dirt on it, you know, from, I guess, wear and tear over the years. Okay. What is this structure here? This chapel-like thing? Do you know what this is?
No, I don't.
Okay.
DP, move to the far right of the screen so too. It
The
looked like
far
it had
right, a chapel here as well.
yeah, it looked like it had a big church there.
Yeah. Okay. This is
One
it.
of them is Presentation College.
At the back.
At the back. Oh, up to the top here.
Is it? Yes. So that would have
Okay.
been.
And
That would
one
have,
of them is the Episcopal or the Anglican Church.
yeah.
Okay. So probably this might be the Anglican church and this the
I
Catholic
can't remember
church.
which one is which though, guys. So
Oh,
long.
okay. I imagine the Catholic church would have been closer to Presentation.
Yes. And
That's
we'll see
basically
that
what
in
I'm
the
going on.
slide. We'll see that in the slide.
Okay, so we have Jonas, Brown, and Hubbard Limited going on here.
And you see where the nutmeg coming from.
Yes.
Yes, of course. You know,
Okay.
and
So
Joseph
guys,
Brown.
the nutmeg. That if that is the same nutmeg, that restaurant is owned by my cousin to this day.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, to
Interesting.
this day. And he made a fortune in the Caribbean by catching lobster in and around Grenada and flying it. He had his own private planes and he would fly it up to the Northern Caribbean. And he developed that from those days, the family, father to son, to, huge restaurant, a big business. That's
Okay.
where all the American
You have to be rich
medical
before
students hang
he had
out
his
there.
own plane.
Okay. And Dennis, now I am paying attention. I just saw something in the chat. Anyways,
And DP,
yeah, go ahead.
in as much as Nanan is here tonight, I think we should arrange our next line to be in Grenada.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You
Get
know,
a guided tour.
that's-
Dave?
yeah. The only
Well,
problem is that
it's funny you
you know,
mentioned that. My grandmother, who was a Grenadian citizen, she, because of her, and my grandfather was a Grenadian citizen as well, but his family is actually Cuban. My mother got her Grenadian citizenship about 5 years ago,
okay.
and several of my uncles. And COVID interrupted me getting my Grenadian citizenship.
Oh, okay.
Because I actually have to go to the island with the documents and,
Okay.
and present myself to claim citizenship. So
Okay.
that's on the plan as soon as COVID is gone.
Yeah, and when you get your citizenship, you could buy land and a house and other things.
Yeah, correct.
Without much of a hassle.
Yeah, and for the benefit of the guys too, I know Dave's grandmother personally.
Correct.
And, I had the privilege of meeting her about 50 years ago. So
okay.
And you also know all of my family from Santa Flora.
Yes, all the uncles and
most of them. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting story. All right, moving on. I guess you were leaving Grenada at this point?
Yes, leaving Grenada at that point, yes. Nighttime.
Okay. And from there, of course,
only one other stop.
Which is Trinidad. Okay. So pretty much all of this, you guys, is self-explanatory. When last I saw Frederick Street so free of traffic. You know, right?
It looks the same way.
9 o'clock at night during COVID.
During COVID, okay.
I think that is an Anglia Park on the left side there.
This?
Oh.
This thing here?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that looks so.
Okay, interesting.
I learned to drive with an Anglia actually. To driving school, I went to have an Anglia.
Yeah.
The
And
clock
look
is
at
still,
Volkswagen there too.
yeah, the clock is still there. You guys know?
Nah.
Anyways.
DP, you
Yeah.
gotta correctly spell in a Frederick, eh?
Frederick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So of course we know this shot from the lookout, I guess, looking over from the Lady Young lookout. You know,
Long time, boy, long time.
yeah. This was
Look at
interesting.
Belmont.
What I like,
Like Jamaica Avenue there, Dennis. Remember we used to stay there?
Yeah, where we went and sleep.
what I like about the picture, the redness of the galvanized roof. You look at it, you just see red, you know.
Yeah.
That is not red, but that is rust.
Rust. No, but back then people also used to paint their roofs red, right?
Galvanized, yes.
Yeah.
Guys who could afford to paint. Them people in Belmont couldn't afford to paint the roof.
But Belmont, back in those days, never had the kind of reputation for criminal gangs and other things, you know, that it does now, eh? Okay, so that's Belmont. This is another view, I suppose, of Belmont. Yeah, and of course, we all know this. Yeah.
The red house in the back there.
Was this only Beacon Radford? Because there hardly seems to be anybody in
it was
in the square at that.
No, they weren't many people. Not then.
Radford, this photograph might have some value if you're selling a photo, you know.
Okay.
A historical piece.
And of course, there is this can really good, you know, straight off this slide.
Yeah.
This is on the docks.
Yep.
Port of Spain. Okay. And this is looking past Flour Mills, I guess. You know, and Linus was complaining about people living on the hill. And I think my house is like somewhere around here right now. You know, as the development, which was certified by the government and the roads were cut and so on, was built subsequently.
Racket.
Subsequently.
Pure racket.
Yeah. See, Austin have your hand up there, DP.
Yes, Austin, sorry, I didn't quite catch.
So what's the history? Pardon my poor historical memory here. What's the history of Woodford Square?
Okay. Wasn't Woodford, I believe, one of the early Governor Generals of Trinidad? Okay. So remember when we had talked about Abercrombie and Chacon? Okay.
Yeah.
And him beating back the Spanish people. I think Britain sent a number of governors in succession. I think Woodford was one of them. Picton was another. You know Picton Street? I think that's around the Savannah by the US Embassy. Okay, that street there. I know a little more about Picton than I know about Woodford, because Picton was a military guy and he ruled Trinidad with a really strong hand. During his tenure, he executed or he hung about 35 people. And there is this thing about him stringing up a 13-year-old girl by her hands, hanging her from the roof, from the where the water flowed down, okay, as punishment for something. But in any case, what I do know is that when he went back to England, he was tried basically for cruelty, right? And he was jailed. And I believe he died subsequently, soon thereafter.
Woodford, I think, did a lot for Trinidad and Port of Spain. If I'm not mistaken, I think he built the Anglican Cathedral, and I think the Roman Catholic Cathedral was built after the Anglican Cathedral, both under Woodford's watch. amongst other things.
Yeah. If my memory serves me right, when I had given that presentation and I talked about the Great Fire of Port of Spain in 1809 or something like that, okay? I believe Woodford was instrumental in building back much of Port of Spain, okay? The fire happened because much of the area was, had wooden buildings and they had a high breeze and the breeze just took everything. And then Woodford came in. So Dave, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to add, and correct, Linus could probably correct me or somebody, but I think one of the other significance was about Woodford Square. It's considered to be like a kind of free speech area where we would have people who would give their discourses or even like, like peaceful kind of exposure, exposure of what they want to say or discuss.
Under Eric Williams, it became known as the University of Woodford Square.
Right. I know you would have known
it was a place of expression, really.
Yeah.
And before it became, well, actually, it's only in the late stages. People started to have political rallies before elections and stuff there. But generally, the people who hung out in Woodford Square were really not vagrants. They were really people who had a good high level of intelligence, people who read a lot. And it was a forum, like how we have our All Fours line now. The line in those days was centered around books and intellectual exchange. And that became, as you can see, it was a really nice place with trees and stuff where people would meet, the older folks mostly, and converse and share ideas and express themselves openly, because they always had a very attentive audience. And it became known as the University of Woodford Square because of the intellectual capacity that basically resided in that place, and then being so close to the Red House and Parliament, it was really appropriate. So the history centered, the development of Woodford Square as we know it today, centered around that sort of environment. And of course, the level of homelessness in Trinidad grew and grew and grew. And the place was still very comfortable for people to go. So it became overrun at one stage with homeless people and stuff like that.
Also, there was no Facebook in those times, so people got a lot of their information from hanging out in Woodford Square. Okay.
Woodford Square. I'm reading from the National Trust here, and they have a good description of what Woodford Square is: a public park and green space in the heart of Port of Spain. It was historically used as a burial site for the first peoples, and was a space where slaves were flogged and hanged by the British. It was also used as the first location site of the Holy Trinity Anglican Church in Trinidad. It was laid out as a park by Governor Sir Ralph Woodford in 1817. It's a place where social and political issues were raised by activists and served as a stage for many radical and notable figures in Trinidad and Tobago past to bring light to certain issues such as racism, inequality, labor issues, high taxation. The square has social and historical ties to various groups, notably individuals and even events over the years. It's one of the most important places in the capital city because of its interconnected history, and it's the center of Woodford Square Heritage District, the only cabinet-approved heritage district in the country. All right, and it goes to talk about much more about it, but you can get it on the National Trust of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Something that I always thought about we have a lot of parks and stuff in the city. We have Woodford Square, we have Victoria Park, we have the Savannah, and these green spaces are so important to the life of a city when you really think about it. It gives people an opportunity to come together, to relax. A lot of people use these spaces to deal with their stress, I think that's a very important, I guess, legacy that both the Spanish and the English people left behind. All right, let's move on. I think we just have a few more things before we look at the modern day. I think this is the one down on the Independence Square there, the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception, at least the towers. Okay. So this is Radford. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
Governor's
You want to
General,
take this?
Governor's house. Yeah. I don't know
And the
what
reason why it was. Go ahead. Sorry.
the reason why. Oh,
Yes, it was called the Governor's house.
yeah, that's where the governor lives.
Yeah, it was, and
And
of course Trinidad wasn't a republic yet, so you know.
no, we were the republic. We're just
Yeah.
colonialized. So,
Okay.
and this is what it looked like then. I don't know is it now the president's house?
Yes, it is.
And it was rebuilt.
Refurbished.
But it is rebuilt.
Refurbished or rebuilt?
I think refurbished, you know. They have like restoration stuff going on.
Restoration, rebuilt. Yeah. It finished. It's completely new now. Where all the stone was reused and all of that.
Okay.
Okay.
And the stone came from the Laventille quarry.
Okay. Okay. There's an interesting story I was reading earlier about this area of Port of Spain and the Savannah. Where Hilton is, which is just across the street, was basically one of the first, let's say, big houses that was built there. And the specific reason for that was because it was close to the river, St. Anne's River, which flowed there. And it was easy access to water, and it was fairly flat. Because, you know, the Savannah, which is a flat place, and from that site, it goes up into, you know, Lady Young Road and so on, which was also very interesting. Okay, so moving on. Another picture of the Red House. Okay. Red House again. The Salvatore building.
At that time, it was the largest structure in Trinidad.
It is now
gone.
Gone.
Demolished, totally demolished.
So yeah. Quick question to you guys in Trinidad. Since it's like about what, 6, 7, 8 years since they broke down this building?
Yeah.
And it's just an empty space?
Yeah.
I mean, in the middle of the city, why? I don't understand. Shouldn't they not have built something there or
yeah, that's
something?
a good question. Need a good answer.
I think part of the plan is to use it for vendors, to have a kind of market there.
No.
That is prime real estate, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people will crave to put up a building there, you know. But anyway, Sparrow had a Calypso back in 1959 or 58, something about a big macro building, right? Seeing people like ants when you're on top of there, cars like Matchbox. I should play that for you guys one of these days. Okay.
I think, Roger, when they were debating replacing that building with an expensive building, they ended up doing the Twin Towers instead. It is government property. It was bought from Salvatore family, and the government decided to do the Twin Towers.
Okay.
And that's where the seat of government is now.
Interesting. But the Twin Towers were done like over 25 years ago, you know, more than almost 40 years ago, if my mind serves me correctly.
No.
Yeah.
1984.
You know, let me ask you guys a question. Anybody knows what was there on the site of the Twin Towers before those things were built?
Panyard.
Panyard? Are you certain about that?
Yes, there was a panyard there.
Okay, because I always remember something that Prangalang said that was so prophetic. He said, when you want somebody to forget something, just build something over it. Right? You know.
Also, when they were excavating the site, a lot of the rocks they found there were not of Trinidad origin, was English. It came as ballast in the ships, and they would empty it, and then they would take load.
Interesting. All right. Moving along then, we have the view of San Fernando. Okay.
Well painted roof.
Now, interestingly, this was 1965, yes? So,
Yes.
so boys' school would have been this building up here, not so?
Yeah.
Next to the church.
Mhm.
But to me, this looks like what is there currently. And,
So that'll be
boys,
after 65. That's after 65. Boys School
okay,
was built
in 67,
68, 69,
69, yeah,
68, 69, somewhere around there.
yeah. So maybe this was an older, when you went, we were talking today, Radford, you were in Trinidad in 65, yeah?
Yes.
You came back
That's for vacation.
for vacation when in 60 something?
65. I
In
came back to Trinidad in 67.
No,
So
you would have taken all those carnival pictures in 68, right?
yes, while I was in Trinidad.
Okay, so probably that's what it is.
Trinidad, and I left Trinidad on December the 20th, 1968.
Okay, good. So this probably is the
68.
brand new, yeah, this is probably the brand new school as
Radford
built.
take that picture the day before you jump on the plane.
Probably, probably, right? Because the next time you were back in Trinidad was in 1981 or something, right? For our added funeral. Right? Yeah.
In the bottom right-hand corner, the Bedford truck.
Okay, this
Yes,
truck over here. This
Go
truck
down,
over here.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, okay. This picture was a little challenging to take out.
That building is Smith's Furniture.
Yeah.
Which one? The one with the Bedford
Right
truck?
there. The pink thing. That sign there on the building.
Yes, sir.
You see,
But this one here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Smith's Furniture.
Oh, okay.
That's Jerry Smith
some good
family.
eyesights, man. All right.
That,
okay.
Is that the black cat down at the bottom there?
I have no idea.
Wrong direction.
All right. Okay, good.
Smith's
And this is
Furniture
another
was
view.
opposite Surgeon Med. Looking
Where?
towards the Smith's Furniture was opposite Surgeon Med, where Surgeon Med now, looking towards the sea. And after that, there was the big garage on the side with all those trucks.
Yeah.
That big
Okay.
garage is still there now. You could park there when you go to San Fernando.
Okay, okay. Anyhow, let's this is the hospital here, of course,
Yeah.
you know, which you know, okay, but that's how it looked back then. All right, so fast forward to today, we've noticed that things are very much different. Okay, Grenada, of course, looks very much like this. Okay. Where's Dave?
Where the house?
Huh?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this was the same scene, or at least part of it, that we had taken out in 65. Some of the like the nutmeg and whoever else was there was probably lower down. I didn't quite get that picture. Okay, but yeah, I had taken this particular picture from the fort that that Bishop was killed at, you know, in the city. Okay, and of course, there's Grand Itang, which is a volcanic lake, or a lake that has formed in the mouth of the they call it the mouth of the volcano. I don't know.
Crater.
In the crater, yeah. Thank you. In the crater of the volcano. All right. Some more Grenada scenes. They're pretty much Antigua scenes. Sorry. This is how the city looks now. St. John's. Okay, at least a few years ago. Scotiabank was a little higher up. These are just like banks, really. And it's still the main thoroughfare. They built a new stadium with Chinese money for the Cricket World Cup some years ago. And they very much very much into, or at least were very much into cruise shipping, okay, as a cruise ship destination, as well as boating. Okay, so they have the regatta every year, okay, and Nelson's dockyard, is a very important place in not only in Antigua, but it serves to bring in a lot of money into the Antiguan economy as well. Okay, so this is Antigua, Barbados. Okay, this is Grantley Adams. Who is this Radford?
Nice.
But yeah, I think is it either Adams or Bustamante?
No, Bustamante would be in Jamaica.
Oh yeah,
right?
Adams. Adams.
Okay.
Right.
Is it Barrow? No.
It's got.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Austin's, of course.
Some more recent day pictures. This is the bridge area of the photograph that we showed. These ones at the ends here, pretty much, and some stuff happening in Barbados there as well. Radford?
Okay, we're okay.
Okay, more.
This is around the bridge area also. Notice, yeah, where the government buildings are.
So a lot of development and stuff would have happened in the intervening period.
Yeah.
Okay. This is downtown St. Vincent.
Yep.
When did you take this photograph of Radford?
2016, no. 2016, yes.
Oh, it's a few years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. You had commented to me how clean the area is, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's something about Frederick Street that bothers me. When I look at main streets in the other Caribbean islands, Frederick Street seems kind of dilapidated, and there doesn't seem to be any changes at all. And I always think in terms of the tourist who comes to Trinidad and goes on Frederick Street. And that, it gives me a sense of, hey, there's something wrong here. Yeah, an impression that I don't think they've made any effort at all to do anything about Frederick Street.
Yeah.
It has stayed the same for the past how many years?
Yeah, yeah.
Any comments?
Yeah, Austin had his hand up. Austin?
Yeah, I don't want to take you off topic, but the issue with Bishop in Grenada, yeah, was it strictly a communism thing, a fear of communism spreading throughout the Caribbean? Was that America's big beef?
No.
Well, what's the real story?
That was the American excuse. Okay. The real story is that there was contention between Maurice Bishop and Bernard Cord. Okay, Bernard Cord was the basic second in command. All right, and Bernard Cord's faction then decided to move on Bishop. Okay, and I think they were caught off guard, really. Okay, and they were imprisoned in the fort, and quite a number of ministers and other people, were with Bishop at the time. Okay, and I guess fearing that the people will rally and come and break him out or whatever, Cord and they devised this scheme where they lined up all of them and shut them down. And that was used, well, the fact that the Cubans were helping to build the airport and other things, and Bishop was seen as this young revolutionary leader in the Caribbean, and of course, we had people like Eugenia Charles from Dominica, who was very, I guess, conservative, for want of a better word, she ran up to Reagan, that very weekend. And next thing you know, American troops, which were heading to Lebanon. I think that's when you had the thing exploding in Lebanon. Okay, were diverted to Grenada under the so-called guise that you have American students in Grenada going to the medical school, and you need to secure them or whatever, right? But
Yeah, that's interesting.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, Roger, can I put up my hand here? Okay.
Yeah. I
So
see
I have a
PK.
slightly different version of the story because a couple of members of my family were thrown in jail and were killed, tortured, and so I disagree. There was an element of communism versus capitalism, and America got involved. Let's just leave it at that. But the interesting thing was, I was very fortunate a few years after the so-called invasion. I know they called it an invasion. The head of the invasion, the officer, the American officer, who was very close to some members of my family, one of the girls got married and he came back to Grenada for the wedding, and my job was to host him. Okay. So I had the opportunity to hear from him just anecdotal stories because these guys don't tell you the real story. Okay. But I had a chance to just get anecdotal stories from him about the invasion, what have you. And they painted an entirely different picture from what you just said. Just for the sake of argument. I will leave it at that.
But I had another spin. I'm not sure where I heard it. I think Hudson Charles gave an interview recently. He was the general who was in charge of the forces. And what he said was, Maurice Bishop had charisma. All the people looked up to Maurice, whereas Bernard Cord was more intellectual. And there was a certain resentment on the part of Bernard Cord towards Maurice Bishop, and he had his faction. So it was basically a coup within the government. And Maurice Cord and his faction just moved against Maurice Bishop and all his supporters. And as both parties said, Dave and DP, the Americans just came in afterwards under the guise of communism coming in, whatever it is, and basically cleaned up afterwards. But it was an internal struggle. It was an internal, and it came down to personalities.
Yeah, it was, from what I know, and I'm quoting pretty much from the same article. Okay, it was pettiness. One fella jealous of another guy, right? Because as you say, Bishop was charismatic. Okay, Cord always felt that he was second best, not only within the government, but with the ladies as well. Right? So you had that conflict, okay, internally. And of course, when what happened, the US, of course, felt it very convenient to use this communism thing to enter.
Yeah, but the PZ, correct
DP,
me if
one
I'm
other
wrong,
thing.
you know more about the politics that took place around that era. There are a lot of these conflicts going around the Caribbean. Michael Manley, right?
But on a
Several
serious
other
note,
Jamaica.
Kingston is in Jamaica, Kingstown is in St. Vincent.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's wrong. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you're
So
correct.
America wanted to get communism out of the West Indies.
Yeah.
But it's simply.
The thing is too, and this is interesting. The USSR and US were fighting a Cold War. Okay, they've been fighting this Cold War since the 40s, since I guess the USSR exploded their first nuclear weapon in 849 or something like that. Okay, but the point is that although you had these two major powers staring down each other, in little countries like Southwest Africa, now Namibia, in Nicaragua, in Guatemala, and so on. You had people on both sides, whether it's UNITA being supported by the Americans in Angola and MPLA being supported by the, they were fighting a hot war, you know.
Yeah, proxy war.
Right? Proxy war for these two big powers. And the people who were dying were the people in the developing world, by the people in the USSR and the people in the US just basically staring down each other, right? You know, and passing different policies and so on, economic and other things. But the hot war was actually happening with the Sandinistas and these other people, Contra rebels, and so on in Nicaragua and elsewhere.
But Roger, there was a real presence of communism in the West Indies. This is what that's the point I'm trying to make without being a political scientist.
Without
It was a
pushing it
real
too much.
presence.
But I don't know if it was communism per se as it was socialism really.
Roger, Trevor Monroe was a communist who taught communism. Okay. Trevor Monroe was my ex-wife's first cousin.
Okay.
You go to his house, he had pictures of him and Gorbachev and Fidel Castro.
Okay.
And he traveled to Russia and Moscow. We knew it. He'd tell his family he's going to Moscow.
Okay.
There was a real presence of communism in the West Indies.
Okay.
And in Grenada too. Reflected by the experiences that I tried.
Okay, Dave had his hand up.
I just wanted to mention a name as we are talking about this topic in Grenada. Wasn't there, and also Eric Gary was part of that whole U.S. affiliation?
Eric Gary was before. When Bishop and they were young people and coming up, okay, as lawyers and so on. But Gary was charismatic.
I thought he was the U.S. pawn, if you know.
He was a U.S. pawn, but he also had great views about UFOs. Like he spoke about UFOs at the United Nations. Okay.
And he had the mongoose
UFOs?
Huh?
You don't believe in UFOs?
No. He said that, you have to have some serious investigation into this UFO phenomenon. Come on, Grenada was a struggling country at that point, you know.
I just thought I'd throw that in the whole millennium.
Yeah, so,
maybe I'm wrong with my history, so no problem.
So and the mongoose gang was, it was a very repressive force, police gang, just killing people willy-nilly. And that is what, Bishop and them overthrew Gary for, basically. Plus and Bishop was a very charismatic guy, very young guy. He was only 30-something. As a matter of fact, both he and Cord were 30-something, young men, right?
Yeah.
If you guys remember how you were when you were 30, 35, 33 years old.
Or wasn't it Eugenia Charles who called you?
She was the Prime Minister of Dominica at the time. And she, as soon as about 2 days after Bishop was killed, she appeared with Reagan in Washington, basically giving the support of the Caribbean. And there was much contention because, several of the Caribbean leaders didn't support the US intervention at the time. Trinidad certainly didn't. Trinidad certainly did not. Okay. So, a lot could be said. We could deal with that topic.
One other point is that at that particular time, Grenada had the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean.
At that time?
At that particular time, the growth was better than other countries in the Caribbean. And what happened afterwards, everything went downhill after the intervention of the US.
Fast forward to today, these fellas spent over 25 years, I believe, in prison. And they've been mercifully released now that they are old men. Some of them, unfortunately, have things like prostate cancer. I think God's wife was also imprisoned, and she was released about 5 to 10 years ago. She too was suffering from cancer. Interestingly, when Hurricane Irma, I believe it was, had come through the Caribbean and had passed through Grenada first, it blew down pretty much 90% of the structures in Grenada, including the prison that they were housed at. And the fellas did not walk out, you know, because pretty much they had nowhere to go, really, right? But they could have escaped, but they remained where they were. Okay, so all of that is what would have contributed to the amelioration of their life sentence,
Yeah.
basically. But interestingly, up to today, they've never found Maurice Bishop's body remains, nor the woman who he had, who was pregnant for him at the time.
Jacqueline Cleft.
Jacqueline Cleft, yeah. Never found their remains.
But they had a son.
Yeah.
Vladimir Cleft, who was murdered in Toronto.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
After Caribana in 96, I think.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah.
Roger.
Who's talking to me?
That's me.
Linus.
Yeah. Sometimes when we sit now today and look back and we weren't present in a country, we didn't understand the things that were going on in that country. We had a charismatic person in Trinidad and Tobago, as Abu Bakr, very charismatic guy. So charisma is a natural part of being a leader. So you would always have fallouts within a system, whether it's within the PNM, the UNC, the Jamaat, Grenadian government, etc. If you put yourself in the position of the US replacing the colonial powers and they had their economic objectives, their political objectives. The communism thing was a big concern of theirs, massive concern of theirs. And therefore, whether they use it as an excuse or not, it was, from their point of view, a well-founded reason to go into a country. And they still do it. The present government in Guyana, Bara Jagdeo, has most of his education coming out of those areas, Russia and stuff like that. The Russian presence is very, very strong in Venezuela and Guyana. And therefore, it's always a serious level of concern for a country that has positioned itself to be the leader of the world and the police of the world, quoting US presidents who have said that. So their actions at that time would always be self-interest, as would the actions of Bernard Court, self-interest, Maurice Bishop, self-interest, and every leader that comes into power in a country, whether it's Nicaragua, Honduras, whatever. At that time, what's his name, Manuel Noriega, self-interest and get set up big times, and people learn from that. So it's easy for us to have an opinion when we have no power. These people had the power. Cuba days, 1962, Bay of Pigs, straight through. And therefore, their development plans for the Caribbean did not line up with a communist type of or socialist type of culture. So they would always, and they still do it, do what they have to do in their best interest. Fortunately, economic crash is not such a bad thing because it takes a country off the radar and gives them enough time to heal inside and recover, as these countries have done. With a slow economic growth, Grenada now has still a very strong economy. Yes, the cost of living is high, but they have developed certain areas in education and stuff like that that is prized. St. Vincent has had one leader for the last 25 years, and they have in their level of dissent now amongst the people. People get bored, I suppose, they want change. Barbados has had a new heavy, positive thinking person at the head now, but they've had great prime ministers in the past. And I think we need to understand and appreciate the actions of the rest of the world from a self-interest point of view. Trinidad don't even have self-interest. That's probably my big point. We have no self-interest. We have personal interest with people who are in power. But these countries have fared well over time in spite of all the challenges. And Dave Nanan, on the 19th of October last year, or year before, I already have my tickets to go to Grenada because my wife's mother is a Grenadian. So I was going to take advantage of that and get my Grenadian passport and shit like that. All the documents in already. You have that choice, or you have the choice of paying 400,000 US for citizenship in most of the Caribbean islands. They're publicly been selling business passports, so to speak. And what's the reason why people would want to do that? What's the reason why so many people at that time in the 60s wanted to go to England, wanted to go to the US, wanted to go to Canada? And now it's a reverse where people want to go to the small, slow Caribbean islands because it's still paradise at our age.
You seem to have cut off, Linus. Something is wrong. You froze.
One of the boys do that to him.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Go ahead, Linus. You cut off about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, my internet connection is unstable. I thought you sabotaged my conversation.
No.
Yeah. So I think we need to not be so judgmental about things that happened in the past from people's point of view, but look at any positives that would have come out of it, because these countries don't complain. I speak to people in Grenada twice or 3 times a week, and they are more concerned about their present and the immediate future than the negative impact on the past. And it was Hurricane Ivan, and the person in Trinidad who was responsible, sent by Patrick Manning to Grenada to help them recover the country, was George Robinson, our schoolmate. He was the head of the engineering battalion at that time in the army. He was a lieutenant colonel, and he's the person who, would you believe, Keith Mitchell kind of reported to, and then to Patrick Manning, because we put the olive branch out to them and actually did what was necessary to help the economy and to help the country recover from that particular situation. They haven't had any real natural disaster of any size since then. So all these things have had a positive impact on a country. It brought them together. It got them to regroup as a people and to focus on the growth. They now have that same medical school, St. George's University, contributes near 40% of the GDP. And so everything works for a country over time if they can stay together as a people now. The unfortunate past, we have had that in Trinidad. Maybe we didn't learn from it as well as they have, but I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that yes, communism was a major, major concern of the US government when they went into Grenada. It wasn't an excuse.
Okay. You know, I agree with, you know, some of the things you said, probably 80% of it, you know, but yeah, you know, how people are really based on their culture and their, you know, background, you know, does influence their thinking and their development, which is why Abu Bakr could never have gotten through, because, you know, I think he totally misread, you know, where the heads of Trinidadians were. But anyways, let's try to bring this home. It's like 9:41. So yes.
Can I ask Radford to speak about? I'm so intrigued about that journey by boat. How was it like on the boat for those days? How did you survive or live on the boat?
It was rough. We slept on deck.
So you slept on a chair?
It was rough.
Basically.
It didn't make sense sleeping in the car. We slept on ropes. We slept on ropes. Yeah, we couldn't sleep below. Yeah, it was tough.
What do you mean?
You know, you get seasick in the first. You were seasick during the first few days, but some people never recovered. I did early o'clock. Okay.
Okay.
But it was not a pleasure boat.
Last question: what camera you used to do all this slides?
I had a Yashica 635.
Okay.
135, whatever it was. I still have it. You know, my first camera which I bought in 1962, was a Kodak box camera. I paid $10 for it. It was my first paycheck from Presentation College. $120 as a non-graduate teacher. $120, and if you graduate, you get $480. And I bought a camera for $10 and gave the rest of the check to my mother. That was my first time I ever worked for cash, other than the usual summer job at Montano's.
Okay.
Selling shoes.
How much is that? You work for $120 a month?
Yes.
And the camera costs $10?
$10.
Okay, interesting. And you give the rest to your mother? Okay, I must have gotten a little bit of shoes or slippers out of that, I guess.
So just to confirm, Radford, the main purpose of the boat was like a ferry boat, not ferry, but to carry
goods,
produce and stuff?
Yes, yes. So all the stuff you picked up, produce and bananas and whatever provisions. And, yeah.
So it's like what we used to call the schooner nowadays, coming and bringing all the island produce.
So it wasn't really used like Liat. If I want to take a trip to St. Vincent, how would I have done that back in those days? Suppose you wanted to go to Antigua or something. How would you have done that?
Probably Liat or something like that.
Liat?
Yeah, I know. Pee-wee flew me to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. But talking about cameras, Ian, okay, yeah. This camera I have here in my hand, okay, is one of the first digital cameras.
Okay.
Okay. I bought this in 1995, I believe. Okay. Oh. It's a Sony. It still works. Okay. And it uses a diskette.
Oh my God.
You see, I would take this diskette and push it in here.
Okay.
Okay. And I would take all the pictures. Yeah.
And how many pictures on that disk?
Well, that's how much ever could hold in 1 megabyte, right? So, and that was that.
You could sell that for some real money now.
Yeah, it still works. Since when they move over to the other kind of thing with the little thing, the card. I put this in something and I said, let me just try to see if this thing works. And it works beautiful. It had a 20 zoom or something like that. Yeah.
Your challenge now is finding a computer to read that disk.
No. I went out and I bought myself this, a portable, a portable, diskette drive, diskette reader. This cost like about $15, Yeah, so it's easy. Anyways, good. So a little bit of St. Vincent, they are also into tourism, I suppose, with the cruise shipping before the COVID.
and the churches in front.
Oh yeah, the churches, the church towers. Okay. Yeah, a lot of hillside development, as you can see. Okay. So it's not only in Trinidad, Lyndhurst. All right. Nice, beautiful houses too, actually.
This is in the country. This is in the
countryside.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And if you look at this house here as well, nice, beautiful, multi-story house and so on. Yeah. All over the hillside. Look at the one at the top here.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. And this one here as well. Interestingly, I did yesterday or the day before yesterday was 5 years since this storm blew down Puerto Rico and parts of the Virgin Islands and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. And I was looking at some of the coverage, and the houses were pretty much like this. And they were absolutely and totally destroyed. Roofs, walls, everything gone. You know, so it's challenging. Last but not least, we have 2 more slides. I think Govind might be interested in this one. Breadfruit, you know. This was Radford, I think you said this was from Captain Bligh.
Yes.
Did you guys ever see the movie Mutiny on the Bounty?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it's Bligh who bought breadfruit over from the from those areas in not by Fiji, around there, that general area. Yeah. Tahiti, yes, that's right.
This picture was taken in the National Botanical Gardens. It's in
Okay.
Benson.
Yeah. And you know, you also have this here, which is some kind of wildlife preserve for parrots, which are endangered, I believe. Only about 500 remain. And it's one of the rarest birds in the world. We took this out as well in St. Vincent. Okay. And last but not least, who knows where this is?
Ah, boy. The Queen's Park Oval, isn't it? Yeah.
No, man. Come on. You all kicked enough ball here already.
Oh,
you know,
the salmon tree.
The salmon tree down by Astor there on Skinner Park. Yes. You that does ring a bell. Mudsec right opposite here, or at least that is how it used to be called. Yeah. All right. So that's it, gentlemen. I don't know if anybody has any other comments or anything they wish to add or not. Let me just stop the share. Okay.
Oxford Graham was just up from that salmon tree.
Yeah.
Used to call it Old Trafford. It's really skin up.
Okay.
Plenty cricket ground there, man.
So then Dave, you know what's going on next week?
Well, N. Raja had switched, so he's going to come back on next week with his review of these short videos.
Right. And I believe that he had mentioned that he and Michael could collaborate. Michael could do his piece and then he could do his thing afterwards.
Yeah, I'm sure you can reach out to Michael to see what's going on there. But he's in charge of coordinating it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I must say, DP, knowing how much effort it does take to, I tried bringing some of those old slides into photograph, and I know it's a tedious task and things. So thank you very much. And Radford, thanks a lot for sharing those memory lane voyages, man. It was great.
I have other memories that I know that PK would be interested in. My campus life at Mona.
I thought you were talking about the Gobia woman. I thought you were talking about the Gobia woman.
Oh, the same block as you were, block C, Chancellor Hall.
Yeah, there was one. Before we go, I just have to find one picture that I want to show the guys. Okay, I'll just find it and we can talk. All right, but
don't tell them.
I won't tell them. I won't tell them who it is. Okay. Let me see if I can find it.
When Radford said he was going to talk to PK the actor, because of the enthusiasm that PK had demonstrated about Pum Pum Rock, I thought it was going to be about that, but.
So when I think the week we went up to Jamaica, before classes started, they had orientation week. And two things I remember is like they'll wake you up 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and went all the way up Long Mountain. All right, so that was one excursion. And the other excursion was, I think it was the Trinidad group of students arranged a trip up to Ocho Rios. So we went down River Falls, whatever it is. That's the first time I saw the rock. So that is, yeah.
Did you go through initiation?
Of course.
Okay, I've got a whole set of slides on initiation.
But in those days, we didn't have cameras or whatever it is. I mean, if we had had cell phones in those days, I can well imagine what would have gone on.
Okay.
Newsflash.
Who else went to Mona in the group? Who else in the group here went to Mona?
Dave, Nana, Dave Nigel.
Okay.
Newsflash, guy.
I went to Mona
Tumblin
also.
Paul is moving to Tanzania
Oh, okay.
Tumblin Paul?
from Jamaica.
He no longer Dean. What happened?
He just decided to go to Africa and do something more fulfilling.
Okay.
All right.
Good for him. Good for him. Okay, I am going to bring up this photograph.
So Roger, I was going to ask you for your information so I could send it to him.
For my information? Okay,
Yes,
sure.
I could send it to him. You're the expert.
Yeah. We can talk later. You know,
Yeah.
I'll shoot you an email or something.
Yeah.
All right. Let me share this screen. And this here. So you guys seeing this screen here?
No.
No?
No, yes.
No.
Oh, this one is showing them. Yes.
Okay, which one? You're all seeing the photograph, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anybody you recognize there? The boys who were in the A stream. Anybody?
Could I point it out? Point out the person?
Expand it a little bit there, please.
What do you think, Roger? Did I point out the person?
Yeah, I know who the person is. I don't know if the other guys think. Okay. You see this guy here? This here is Mr. Mercier. This guy right here.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day.
This was taken out in the student union.
Yeah,
in
this was
Jamaica.
in Jamaica
All right,
on campus.
okay.
On campus. Yeah.
Right.
You see, and I guess they were dancing and other things going on there at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of these pictures here. And
Did you, Roger? Did you do the other one with the politician?
The politician?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one here.
You
I think I saw
Sure.
this one. I posted this one.
Yeah, you should have that one.
Yes.
Oh, you did.
Let's see if Dave Nanan figures who this is. Dave, are you aware of this? Looks familiar to you at all, this guy? No, this is Patrick Manning when he was on campus.
During initiation at Irving
Right?
Hall.
He was probably about 21 years old or something like that at that time, which is interesting. Yeah. We also have a whole heap of pictures on. I think this is an important picture as well. This is how Radford looked back in the day. Yes. with his camera on campus. Yes. Okay, you had black hair then. All right. And
I still had the beard.
Yeah.
I still had the beard.
yeah.
My kids have never seen it
one more shot before I close off. Which is this. I'm not too sure if this is this is off the slide, right? So basically I use this program here to capture these things and just crop, and the rest is what it is you saw. Yeah. Oh, one more thing, Dave. If you want to take out these things, you have to use like a blank computer screen to get it backlight. So it's just a blank page in Microsoft Word. Okay, and you put the thing. Like I created this contraption here, that allowed me to just put the photo. I just stick it out. Yeah, and that's the rest of it is history. Otherwise, you can go to one of these photographic studios and pay a lot of money to do this stuff. Okay?
All right.
All righty then. Okay, so let me just stop this share. Okay, come back to this. And I guess thank all of you guys for
very much.
Coming tonight and going back through the Caribbean in the 60s with us. All right. Okay, guys. So next week we will talk. Dave, I have to go home. I'll call you over the weekend.
Okay, no problem. Hey, Radford, one last question. Did you pay to go on that trip, or was it just a free ride?
Oh, you pay. I can't remember how much I paid, but it wasn't much.
I thought it was like a free thing helping out on the boat or something. No problem.
Basically, it was 2 weeks, 3 days on the water, then the islands, then 3 days in Trinidad, and then back up the road.
You flew back.
Come back. Oh, yes.
You flew back up the road, or you took the boat
I
again?
flew back.
Okay. Okay, cool.
All right.
All right, gentlemen. So until we meet again.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call me, Roger. This weekend at home.
Will do. All right. Take care.
All right. Take care, gentlemen.
Hey, take care.